You are not like the others. You never were. From an early age, the world tried to mold you. But your essence has always slipped through the cracks. Your soul carries an ancient calling, a mission that cannot be explained with words. That is why life has never been easy for you. It has never been ordinary. The rejections you faced were not failures of fate. They were signs. Each no you received, every closed door, every absence that hurt, all of this was part of a process, a path that separates the chosen ones from those who merely exist. And you have been separated. While many fit in easily, you felt that you did not belong. At parties, in homes, in jobs. It was as if your presence always challenged the logic of the environments. This is not coincidence. It is spiritual. Your energy reveals what many try to hide. Your existence disturbs because your light exposes what is dormant in others. The pain you felt was different. It was deep, lonely, hard to explain. But now everything begins to make sense. You are waking up. You are remembering. The chosen ones are not recognized immediately. First, they are rejected, because the world does not readily recognize what is divine. This message is for those who always felt out of place, but never understood why. It's for those who are tired of trying to fit in. It's for you, who has thought about giving up, but you are still standing, because something inside you won't let you stop. This has a name. Purpose. These 10 rejections that we will reveal next are not a coincidence. They are part of the journey for all who carry a greater mission. When you hear each of them, you will realize that your pain always had direction, and that you were never alone. Now follow this channel. If these words touched something inside of you, know that this is just the beginning. There are messages that still need to find you, codes that will strengthen your journey. Here you will not only identify yourself, you will remember who you are. 1. Rejected in childhood for not fitting in. From the early years of life, everything already seemed different. While other children surrendered to the moment without thinking, you carried a distant, attentive gaze, almost adult-like. The world was too noisy, too fast, too superficial. You noticed things that no one commented on. You felt pains that no one explained. In games, it was not just play. In words, there was something hidden. In the actions of others, you saw intentions that seemed invisible to everyone. It was as if you were living in another frequency. This left you in silence. Not out of shyness, but because what was happening inside you was deeper than any child's conversation. You tried to fit in. You forced yourself to laugh along, to participate, to seem normal. But even when you did everything right, you were still left aside. Sometimes you were the punchline. Other times, you were simply forgotten. There was no clear explanation, just a constant feeling of displacement. Over time, this began to hurt. You wondered what was wrong. Why did others not accept you easily? Why did being in a group seem so difficult? Childhood, which should have been light, was the first scenario where rejection manifested. While adults thought it was just the way of the child, you carried in your heart questions that no one saw. Your mind was full of ideas, doubts, and feelings that seemed too big for your age. This left you confused. How to explain what you couldn't even name? This difference was not weakness. It was sensitivity. A sensitivity that few around you knew how to embrace. You are not complicated. You are deep. And depth scares those who have only learned to live on the surface. The pain of not fitting in created a shell. And with it came the need to protect yourself. You learned early to observe before trusting, to gauge the environment before surrendering. It was as if your heart knew that caution was needed, because not everyone was ready for who you really were. Many of those who rejected you in childhood didn't even know why. but your energy bothered them. It brought a presence that could not be ignored. Even silent, you drew attention. Even quiet, you triggered reactions. This was not bad luck. It was a sign of something greater. The chosen ones are not recognized at first. They are tested, and the tests usually begin early. The first wounds come in the form of silent rejection, but even hurt, you moved on. Because something inside you always knew you were not the same. This feeling of being different didn't go away. But now, looking back, perhaps you are beginning to understand. What seemed like unexplained pain was the sky preparing you. Childhood was the soil where your essence began to reveal itself, even when the world tried to extinguish it. You were not born to fit in. You were born to be a reference. And for that reason, discomfort came first, to mold you, strengthen you, and distance you from paths that did not belong to your mission. If today you feel that you have always been the odd one out, know this: that is the mark of the chosen ones. 2. Ignored in social groups, being present and, at the same time, feeling invisible. This was one of the most recurring sensations of your life. You were there, in the room, in the conversation circle, in the group of friends, but it was as if you weren't. Your words were cut off. Your ideas were ignored. Your presence often went unnoticed. It wasn't about a lack of effort. You tried to fit in, to get closer, to be part of it. But there was always a blockage, an invisible barrier. And this hurt more than direct rejection. Because silence, in these cases, speaks volumes. It says, "You do not belong here." This subtle exclusion taught you to be silent, to observe more than to speak, to be in places with your body, but with your spirit distant. It was as if you were allowed to be there, but not to belong, accepted, but never truly welcomed. Inside, questions arose. Is it me that's the problem? Why does no one notice me? But it wasn't a lack of worth. It was an excess of depth. Your energy carried something that many were not ready to receive. And for that reason, they unconsciously left you on the sidelines. You felt everything more intensely. You noticed falsehoods, avoided superficialities. While others laughed on the outside, you saw what was hidden behind the smiles. And that pushed you even further away. Because the chosen do not connect by appearances. They seek truth. This isolation in groups was disguised protection. Life kept you away from environments where your light would be wasted. You thought you were being excluded. But in reality, you were being spared. The chosen carry an energy that changes the environment. But before that, they go through the silence of those who do not know how to handle it. 3rd, undervalued in first love. You loved with full commitment, for real. Without games, without masks, without reservations. The feeling was pure, intense, whole. But instead of being welcomed, it was misunderstood. What was depth for you seemed excessive to the other. What was true was confused with neediness. It's not that you loved wrong. You just loved someone who was not ready. Someone who could not handle the greatness of what you offered. Your love frightened them, because it was different. It had presence. It had soul. It had weight. And not everyone is prepared for that. This undervaluation marked you. It made you question yourself. Am I wrong for feeling so much? Do I need to be quiet, to hold back, to love less? And this doubt silenced your expression. It pushed away your spontaneity. It created fears where there was once purity. But the love that the chosen carry is not common. It is mission. It transforms. It heals. And for that reason, it is so difficult to understand. Ordinary people are frightened by this kind of commitment. Because they have learned to love with fear, with limits, with control. You were not loved as you deserved, but that does not define your worth. The pain that came from this rejection opened space for maturity, to see that not just anyone can walk by your side, that the love you carry is for someone who also has a mission. Being undervalued in first love was not punishment. It was a warning, a reminder that your essence should not be wasted. Your heart is too sacred for those who do not know what they have in their hands. The chosen love with purpose. And sooner or later, they find someone who recognizes that light. But before that, they learn from rejection. They learn to love themselves first. 4. Forgotten at work, even while giving more. You always gave your best. Delivered more than was asked. Arrived early, left late. Took on responsibilities that weren't even yours. And even so, it was as if no one saw. While others were praised for doing the bare minimum, you went unnoticed, even carrying the weight of many. This invisibility was not fair. You knew you deserved more. More recognition, more appreciation, more space. But for some reason, the reward never came. And this created a knot inside. A feeling of frustration that was difficult to explain to those who only see results and do not perceive effort. You thought maybe something was lacking in you. More charisma, more ambition, more skill. But the truth is that the problem wasn't you. It was the environment. Empty places do not recognize full souls. And often the system rejects those who threaten to reveal how shallow it is. You were not forgotten by chance. You were removed from a place that could not contain you. Your shine disturbs where people are used to dim light. Your commitment frightens those who only pretend to care. The silence you received was a spiritual response. This space is not for you to grow. The pain of not being recognized served to strengthen your essence, to remind you that your worth is not in applause. It is in the impact you make, even when no one admits it. It is in the legacy you build in silence. It is in the good you do without an audience. The chosen ones are not valued immediately, because their worth does not fit in titles or badges. They carry a mission, not a function. And for this reason, they are forgotten in small rooms to be remembered in larger spaces. Time will show. What the world ignored, the heavens were preparing. 5. Left aside by friends. You were always there. In tough times, in sincere conversations, in the early mornings when someone needed support. You listened, understood, and cared. You gave advice that you didn't always receive in return. You were a constant presence even when the world of others was crumbling. But when it came your time to need, few remained. Being left aside by those you considered friends was a silent cut. There were no fights, no explanations, just the distancing. Suddenly, messages stopped coming. Invitations disappeared, conversations cooled, and you found yourself wondering what you did wrong. The silence hurt more than harsh words. The truth is that you never fully belonged to those circles. Your soul craved truth, depth, real connection. And many were only there for convenience, for habit, for superficiality. When your truth began to surface, it unsettled them. Your presence became a mirror, and not everyone can bear to see themselves truly. The friends who left could not handle your essence, and that does not diminish you. On the contrary, it shows how much your presence carries weight, truth, and light. But too much light disturbs those who still live in shadow. Your intensity pushed people away, not out of error, but out of an excess of truth. You cried. You questioned yourself. You thought about changing who you were to avoid losing anyone else. But gradually you realized, losing those friends was a deliverance. They were not losses. They were liberations. People who left to make room for those who will truly come out of connection, not convenience. The path of the chosen is often lonely, not because they are difficult, but because they are true. And truth does not resonate with just anyone. The connections that will last are those that vibrate on the same frequency. Those that are not scared of depth, but dive in together. The right friends will not leave you behind. They will honor you, listen to you, embrace you on both good and bad days. And they will recognize the privilege of walking alongside someone who carries purpose. 6. No connection with siblings or family. You grew up surrounded by people who shared the same blood but not the same soul. You tried to get closer, to create bonds, to make yourself understood. But it seemed that there was always a barrier, an invisible space between you that time could not fill. And that hurt more than any physical distance. It was like speaking a language that no one there understood. You explained, demonstrated, gave of yourself, and received empty stares, cold reactions, judgments disguised as concern. It was frustrating to try to be present in an environment where your essence was neither welcomed nor understood. You tried not to care. You tried to accept that family is just like that. But deep down, you always felt that something was out of place, that there was a distance that went beyond personality differences. It was as if you belonged to parallel worlds, even living under the same roof. This lack of connection was not a sign of failure, nor a cause for guilt. It was part of your journey. Your mission carries a frequency that does not always resonate with those at home. And that does not mean you love less, or are worse. It simply means that your path is different. Many of the chosen go through this. They are born into families that do not understand them in order to learn to walk alone, to learn to listen to the inner voice, even amid external silence, to find support from above when it does not come from the side. You were separated within your own home, and this, no matter how painful it was, strengthened you. It taught you to grow without depending on the validation of those around you, to build your own identity, even without support. Some blood bonds will not be soul bonds, and that is okay, because the chosen learn to value true connections, even when they come from outside. Soul bonds recognize the mission, and it is with those that you will truly walk. 7. Tried to adapt, and still was rejected. You tried. You tried to change the way you spoke, the way you dressed, the way you behaved. You observed how others acted and tried to copy them. You silenced opinions, hid feelings, dimmed your light, all to be accepted, all to finally feel that you belonged somewhere. But even then, it didn't work. Even by reshaping yourself, you were still seen as different. You were still left aside. And that hurt more than the initial rejection. Because now you were not even yourself anymore, and still you remained alone. The attempt to fit in created an internal conflict. You no longer recognized yourself. You were present, but disconnected from your own essence, and the emptiness only grew. Because being rejected for being who you are hurts, but being rejected even after trying to fit in hurts even more. You learned the hard way that it is pointless to force yourself. The souls of the chosen do not fit into molds. They were not born to imitate, nor to hide. The more you try to fit into the patterns, the further away you drift from your purpose. This rejection revealed something important to you. Your authenticity is non-negotiable. You don't need to change to be accepted. You need to stand firm until you find those who recognize your truth. Because the chosen were not made to adapt to the world. They were made to transform the environment they walk on. Those who did not accept you were blind to your greatness. But you were not born to be understood by everyone. You were born to be true to who you are. 8. Had an absent or emotionally distant father. He was there. But at the same time, he wasn't. Perhaps you lived in the same house, shared the same roof, but not the same affection. There was a lack of gaze, a lack of presence, a lack of listening. You needed to be seen, but what you received was silence, rigidity, or simply indifference. You tried to please. You sought approval in every gesture and every achievement. But it was like talking to a wall. No reaction, no hug saying, "I'm proud of you." This created a silent wound, an emotional hole that you learned to hide over time. This absence was not just physical, it was emotional. And no matter how much you tried to understand, a part of you grew up feeling that you were not enough. It was as if you had to always strive to be noticed. And still, it was never enough. But the problem was never you. Some parents cannot access their own pain, and therefore do not know how to deal with the sensitivity of their children. You were too deep for someone who learned to survive on the surface. Your soul craved presence, but he only knew how to offer distance. This emptiness pushed you inward. It brought you closer to another kind of fatherhood, one that does not fail, that does not lack, that does not abandon. The father who knows you completely and has never stopped seeing you. It was in moments of greatest absence that you learned to hear that voice. The chosen often grow up without earthly arms to learn to strengthen themselves in the embrace of the higher. The absence that hurt was the same that directed you, and even with the pain, you blossomed. 9. The light you carried scared your mother. She loved you. You always knew that. She cared for you, fed you, protected you. But there was something that hurt in silence. She could not understand who you truly were. Your sensitivity, your intensity, your perception seemed like too much. And without realizing it, she tried to mold you. She wanted to see you happy, but within the standards she understood as safe. You grew up hearing that you were too complicated, too emotional, too strange. You tried to hide parts of yourself to be easier to love. Your light, so natural, began to feel like a burden. And this confused you. How could someone who loves you try to extinguish what is most true about you? It wasn't malice, it was fear. Your mother may have been taught to fear what is outside the ordinary. And you, since you were little, were already extraordinary. She tried to protect you from the world, but she also tried to protect the world from you, because she didn't know how to deal with something so intense. Your presence created discomfort because it carried revelation. You saw what no one said. You felt what no one explained. And that, for someone trained to survive, can seem dangerous. That's why she wanted you to be normal. She wanted to protect you. But deep down, she didn't know how. The light you carried was never too much. It only illuminated where there were unresolved shadows. And that is frightening. But the mission of the chosen is not to be understood by everyone, not even by those closest to them. It is to remain true to your essence, even when it is uncomfortable for those who brought you into the world. You don't need to dim who you are to be loved. Your light was given for a greater purpose, and those who truly love you will, over time, learn to see, and not just look, at everything you are. 10. Hostile towards people you never really knew. You barely exchanged words with them. You never did anything against them, not even had time to create any kind of relationship. Still, the look was different. The posture was cold, and in some cases, the disdain was clear, even without reason, as if your mere presence was already bothersome. At first, you thought it was just in your head. You tried to find explanations, to reconsider your actions, to correct yourself. But the truth is that there was nothing to explain. It was something that happened even before you opened your mouth, as if your energy said it all. Being rejected for no apparent reason is confusing. It hurts. It creates insecurity. You start to ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? And the answer, no matter how strange it may seem, is nothing. Your light is what bothers. Your presence reveals what many people try to hide. Some people can't stand being close to those who carry truth. It exposes wounds, activates memories, awakens discomfort. And because they don't know how to deal with this, they attack, push away, despise. The problem was never you. It was what you awaken in them without even trying. You are not rejected. You are set apart. Everything that seemed confusing now begins to make sense. The pain was not the end. It was the beginning of something greater. If you felt this message in your heart, leave in the comments, "I've been through this," or "Now I understand my pain." Your comment can touch others who, like you, need this awakening. And remember, you are not alone. There is a mission waiting for you, and those who are set apart by God will never be confused by the world.